Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever felt like there's a script running in your head, sort of telling you how to be, what to think, maybe even what to feel?
Oh, absolutely.
And it doesn't always feel like your script, you know?
It's a really common feeling, actually. It's something ancient wisdom traditions talk about quite a bit. This idea that our lives are, in a way, a kind of dream.
Yeah, a dream we didn't consciously choose.
Exactly.
And that sense of being in a dream, maybe sometimes a difficult one, that's really what our listeners' shared materials get into. We've got notes, excerpts, study guides, all diving deep into Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements.
Which draws on ancient Toltec wisdom, right? And the material, it's not just theory, is it? It's more like a practical map. It shows us how that script, as you called it, gets written into our minds.
And crucially, how we can maybe rewrite it.
That's the key part, yeah.
So our mission in this deep dive, really, is to pull out the core ideas in these sources. You know, how we get domesticated, that inner conflict it creates.
And then the actual path to personal freedom that's laid out in the Four Agreements.
Right. We want to kind of cut to the chase, pull out the key insights, and show you how these ideas, even though they're ancient, are still incredibly relevant for life today.
Okay, so the source material, it starts by framing how the human mind works. It says the mind is basically always dreaming.
Always dreaming, even when we're awake.
Yeah, awake or asleep.
Yeah.
When we're awake, the difference is there's this, like, a material frame. It makes us perceive things in a linear way, time moving forward.
Okay. And then layered on top of our own personal dream is this huge collective thing, the dream of the planet.
That's the term used, yes. It's described as the shared reality, society's rules, beliefs, laws, religions, cultures, all of it.
Everything that was already here when we arrived.
Exactly, like a massive operating system that was just pre-installed. And the sources, they go into detail about this process called domestication, how starting when we're kids, our parents, schools, society, they use our attention.
Our attention.
Yeah, and repetition. To basically install this societal dream, they sort of hook our attention, which is described as our most powerful tool, really,
Yeah.
and program us with all these beliefs and rules.
There was a line in the notes that really struck me. We are born with the capacity to learn how to dream. And the humans who live before us teach us how to dream the way society dreams. It feels less like learning and more like, well, like you said, programming.
And the sources really emphasize the lack of choice in this, especially when we're young. I mean, think about it. We never had the opportunity to choose what to believe or what not to believe. We never chose even the smallest of these agreements. We didn't even choose our own name. We accepted the information we were given.
So if we're programmed like this and maybe lose some of our natural joyfulness along the way, what fills that space?
Well, the sources say we internalize this system, a system of punishment and reward. We learn to look outside ourselves for approval, try to avoid disapproval.
And we judge ourselves constantly based on these rules we've learned.
Exactly, which leads straight into some significant inner conflict, according to the material.
Okay, so let's talk about that conflict.
This is where the sources bring in these internal characters, you could say. The judge and the victim.
The judge and the victim now.
So the inner judge is that part of our mind that takes the rule book, we learn the book of law, it's called, and uses it to constantly critique us. Our thoughts, our actions, our feelings, everything.
Like an internal prosecutor.
Pretty much. And the victim, well, that's the part that receives the judgment. It takes the hit.
It carries the blame, the guilt, the shame.
Right. The sources put it very bluntly. The judge decrees and the victim suffers the guilt and punishment.
Oof.
And this whole dynamic, this self-judgment, this self-blame, it's incredibly harsh. The material actually says it's often far worse than any abuse we might get from other people.
Worse than from others.
Yeah. But nobody abuses us more than we abuse ourselves. The way we judge ourselves is the worst judge that ever existed. Just think about that constant inner voice, that not good enough feeling, or I should have done that differently.
Yeah, that relentless inner critic. It's exhausting. And the sources say this conflict, all this chatter, these conflicting beliefs, it creates this sort of chaos in the mind.
A fog, yeah, which the Toltecs apparently called the mitote.
Mitote.
Yeah.
Like M-I-T-O-T-E.
That's right. Or sometimes it's called Maya illusion. It's like a dense cloud of mental noise, basically. The source says, your whole mind is a fog, which the Toltecs called a mitote.
Wow.
Your mind is a dream where 1,000 people talk at the same time and nobody understands each other.
It's a powerful image, 1,000 voices talking at once.
Yeah. And it makes it really hard to see clearly, right? Hard to know what's actually real when your own mind feels that noisy and contradictory.
And the sources connect this internal mess, this fog, directly to our suffering.
Precisely. It's the state most of us are living in, often without even realizing the programming underneath it all.
Okay, so if that's the problem, this inherited dream, the judge-victim thing, the mitote fog, how on earth do you start to break free?
Well, this is where the 4 agreements finally come in.
Right.
The material actually describes them as a kind of declaration of war against that old fear-based dream.
A declaration of war, that's strong language.
It is. They're presented as a very practical path, not just nice ideas. They take real effort. You have to use your personal power, as the source calls it, to consciously change those agreements you made way back during domestication.
So it's like actively choosing a different way to operate. Constantly.
Wait a moment.
Yeah, okay. Which brings us to the first agreement. Be impeccable with your word. Now, I thought I understood, words have power, but this material,
Yeah.
it takes it to another level.
It really does. It calls the word the most powerful tool humans possess. A gift from God, even. Capable of creation or destruction.
Creation or destruction. White magic or black magic.
Exactly. Your word is the power that you have to create. Your word is the gift that comes directly from God. That's one quote.
And the flip side, your word is pure magic, and misuse of your word is black magic. That comparison, it makes you think twice about careless talk, doesn't it?
It definitely frames negative speech as actively harmful. Yeah. And the source defines impeccable in a specific way here. Not just morally good, but as without sin.
Without sin.
Yeah, but sin is defined very specifically, too. A sin is anything that you do which goes against yourself.
Against yourself.
Everything you feel or believe or say that goes against yourself is a sin. So being impeccable means not using your power, your word, against yourself.
Including your own internal self-talk, that inner critic.
Absolutely. And also not using it against others, because the source implies that ultimately harms you, too. It gives some really potent examples.
Like the one about the mother and daughter.
Yeah, the mother tells her daughter she has an ugly voice. Just one careless comment, probably born from the mother's own issue.
Her own agreements.
Right. And it plants this seed of self-judgment in the child that can last for years. Maybe she stops singing, stops speaking up.
Or the example of a friend making some hurtful comment about how you look. If you accept it, if you believe it.
Then you've made an agreement with their words, and that agreement causes you pain.
And gossip. The material calls gossip the worst form of black magic.
The worst form. Compares it to a computer virus, spreading emotional poison. It just reinforces that mitote fog for everyone involved.
So what happens if you actually practice this? If you become impeccable with your word?
The sources say it starts to clean out that emotional poison from your mind. It makes your mind fertile ground for love instead of fear.
Which leads to self-love, happiness, peace.
Yes, and it also builds a kind of immunity. You become less susceptible to the negative spells, you could say, or the judgments coming from other people.
Why? Because you're not feeding them internally anymore.
Exactly. Your inner ground isn't receptive to that kind of poison when you're focused on directing your energy, your word, towards truth and love.
Wow. It sounds like it needs incredible self-awareness. I mean, we talk all the time.
It's a huge shift, no doubt. A shift in how we relate to reality itself, starting with the very tool we use to create it.
Okay. Which flows really nicely into the second agreement. Don't take anything personally. This feels like it directly addresses that victim part of the mind we talked about.
It really does. The core idea here from the source is that nothing other people do or say is actually about you.
Nothing.
Nothing. It's always a reflection of their own internal world, their history, their dream, their agreements.
Nothing other people do is because of you. It is because of themselves. That's a quote, right?
Yes. And another one. All people live in their own dream, in their own mind. They are in a completely different world from the one we live in.
That is such a fundamental shift. It feels hard, though. Like really hard to truly live by. What if someone is, directly insulting you to your face?
Even then, the sources argue, their insult comes from their stuff, their programming, their judge, their pain.
So taking it personally is selfish.
The material calls it the maximum expression of selfishness. Yeah. Because you're assuming their entire world revolves around you.
Huh. I never thought of it that way.
And the quote continues, when you take things personally, then you feel offended, and your reaction is to defend your beliefs and create conflicts.
And you end up, like, eating their emotional garbage, as the source puts it.
You do. But if you don't take it personally, you become immune to that poison. It frees you from constantly needing their approval or getting wounded by their projections.
Like the example of Miguel Ruiz himself, not taking it personally whether people called him an angel or a devil.
Right, because he knows who he is, so their labels just don't stick.
Man, think about how much drama and suffering in our lives comes from taking things personally. A short email, a comment online, something a family member says.
Oh, huge amounts. We react based on our interpretation of their intent, which is usually wrong because it's filtered through our own stuff.
So this agreement is really about reclaiming your own emotional space, protecting it, which leads us right into number 3. Don't make assumptions. Yeah, why do we do this so much? Make assumptions.
Well, the sources suggest it's often about feeling safe. We try to fill in the blanks when we don't understand something, make sense of it.
But we fill it in based on our own view.
Right, exactly. We project our interpretations onto things, often seeing only what we want to see or what we fear we'll see.
And the material says the biggest assumption we make is...
believing everyone else sees life the exact same way we do.
Right. We make the assumption that everyone sees life the way we do. And this is why we have a fear of being ourselves around others.
Because we project our own inner judge onto them. We assume they'll judge us just as harshly as we judge ourselves.
So we make assumptions about what they're thinking, what they want, what they expect, instead of just finding out.
And that leads to massive misunderstandings, unnecessary suffering, especially the source notes in relationships.
Oh, yeah. Like assuming your partner knows what you want or need without you ever saying it.
Classic example. And then you get upset when they don't read your mind, even though the whole expectation was based on an assumption you made internally.
It's kind of absurd when you put it like that.
It is. The quote goes, because we don't understand something, we make an assumption about the meaning, and when the truth comes out, the bubble of our dream pops, and we find out it was not what we thought it was at all.
The bubble pops. I like that. So what's the antidote the source gives?
It's beautifully simple, though, like you said, not always easy to practice.
Just ask.
Ask questions, find your voice, practice clear communication, ask for what you want, clarify expectations instead of living in that fog of assumption.
I can think of so many arguments, big and small, that probably could have been completely avoided by just asking one simple, clarifying question.
Me too. It respects your own need for clarity, and it respects that the other person has their own unique perspective. It avoids so much unnecessary conflict.
Okay, so that's number 3, which brings us to the 4th agreement. Always do your best. This one feels a bit different, maybe like the glue that holds the others together.
That's a good way to put it. It's presented as the agreement that really makes the practice of the other 3 possible. It's the action principle.
And the sources are really clear that doing your best isn't about perfectionism, right?
Not at all. It's dynamic. It changes from moment to moment, day to day. Your best when you're healthy and rested is different from your best when you're sick or tired or stressed.
Just do your best in any circumstance in your life. That's the core message.
If you always do your best, there is no way you can judge yourself. That's the key outcome. No room for self-judgment.
If you know honestly that you did the best you could in that moment with the energy and awareness you had,
then the inner judge has nothing to latch onto later. No should-haves or could-haves. No guilt, no blame, no regrets.
it cuts off the self-punishment cycle.
Precisely. There's that story in the material about the man asking the master, should I meditate for 4 hours or 8 hours?
Right. And the master says,
He says it doesn't matter about the quantity, just do your best. If 4 hours is your best today, great. If you try to force 8 and end up exhausted or resentful, you're actually not doing your best anymore.
So it's about the quality of effort, the intention, finding some joy in the action itself, not just hitting a target.
Exactly. It takes the pressure off these external standards and puts the focus back on your own internal integrity in the moment.
And this helps you keep practicing the other agreements, even when you mess up.
Yes, because the sources acknowledge very realistically that you will mess up. These old patterns, these old agreements are deep.
We're human.
We're human. But the power isn't in never falling down, it's in getting back up. The practice, according to the source, is to stand up, forgive oneself, and start again, doing your best just for today.
Just for today. That makes it feel more manageable.
That self-compassion is crucial. This isn't meant to be a new set of rules to beat yourself up with. It's a path away from the beating. Doing your best actually fosters self-acceptance over time.
So embracing these 4 agreements It really sounds like it shifts you out of that old, reactive, fear-based operating system.
That's the promise, yes. Which the source material says allows you to start living in a new dream, what it calls heaven on earth.
Heaven on earth. Not like a place after death, but a state of mind.
Exactly. It reiterates that heaven, like hell, is primarily a state of mind, a way of experiencing life, not some future destination.
And living in that state, that dream of heaven, is possible right here, right now.
By actively changing those internal agreements, by choosing to live based on these 4 agreements. There's a quote, "You can reach heaven while we are alive. We don't have to wait until we die."
And what powers this transformation?
Love. The source emphasizes love as the force that enables this shift. Experiencing this state is experiencing unity, seeing yourself reflected in everything and everyone.
Only love has the ability to put you in that state of bliss.
That's the quote, yeah.
The source material also briefly mentions some related Toltec ideals, right?
Yeah.
Mastery of awareness, transformation.
Yes, awareness being about seeing the dream clearly, recognizing the illusions and agreements. Transformation is about actively changing that dream, using tools like the 4 agreements. And intent, or love, is seen as the underlying energy, the driving force, the creator, or life itself.
Even the idea of the angel of death is reframed.
Right, not as something morbid, but as a teacher reminding us to live fully now in the present, because that's all we ever truly have. The past is gone, the future isn't here yet.
So ultimately, living the 4 agreements is presented as a very conscious choice.
A choice you make for yourself. A decision to step out of the mental fog, out of the fear, and into clarity and love.
Wow. Okay, so we really dug into this inherited dream, the internal struggle it sets up, and then this incredibly practical step-by-step path to reclaiming personal freedom through the 4 agreements.
Yeah, we've touched on domestication, the judge, the victim, that mitote fog, and then the power of each agreement. Be impeccable with your word.
Don't take anything personal.
Don't make assumptions.
And always do your best. So what does this all mean for you listening right now? I think the real power here isn't just in, understanding the concepts, it's in living them. The source material really hammers home the importance of practice, of transformation.
Absolutely. So here's maybe a remarkable call to action, inspired directly by the spirit of the source material. Don't feel like you have to tackle all 4 agreements perfectly. Starting now, that's overwhelming.
Yeah, that sounds like setting yourself up for failure.
Right. Instead, just choose one agreement that really resonates with you right now, today, maybe the one that feels most challenging or most needed.
Okay, just pick one.
And for the rest of today, just make a conscious commitment to yourself to practice that one agreement.
Just for today. Focus on, say, being impeccable with your word, or catching yourself before you take something personally, or asking a question instead of assuming, or just bringing awareness to doing your best in whatever you're doing.
Exactly. See what happens, see what shifts, even subtly. Frame it as taking one concrete step towards changing your internal landscape, creating a new dream for yourself, starting right now.
We'd genuinely love to hear which agreement you're choosing to focus on today.
Yeah, let us know what comes up for now as you practice.
Drop a comment. And of course, if this deep dive was helpful or sparked something for you, please like this episode, subscribe for more explorations like this. And a huge, heartfelt shout out to Don Miguel Ruiz for sharing this ancient wisdom in such a clear, powerful way.
Absolutely. And a big shout out to all of you listening for taking this journey with us through these profound ideas.
Maybe let's just take a moment now, drawing some inspiration from the prayers included in the source material, just holding a space for ourselves and really for all sentient beings.
Okay. Today, creator of the universe, life, love, whatever name resonates, we offer our deepest gratitude. Thank you for this incredible gift of life, for the air we breathe, for every opportunity we have to learn, to grow, to change.
Thank you for the wisdom that illuminates the path to freedom from suffering. Help us, please, to see ourselves and to see everyone else through the eyes of love, free from the fog of judgment.
May our words be impeccable today. May they be seeds of truth, of kindness, of love, and peace. May we build others up, and ourselves too.
May we remember not to take things personally, recognizing that everyone lives in their own dream. Help us see past the projections, and may we find the courage to stop making assumptions, to ask for clarity, to communicate with honesty and love.
And may we always do our best in every situation. Grant us the grace to forgive ourselves quickly when we fall short, and the strength to stand up and try again, finding joy not just in the outcome, but in the effort itself.
Thank you for the freedom that comes from living fully in this present moment. help us to embrace love as the guiding force, the energy that connects us all.